anything. So that's not really a man. That's just a person that's that's a coward. That's a person that stands on the side and hope that things work out. You don't need that in a battle. You really don't.
Nonetheless, it was a great conversation, and even it pivoted to coming into our discussion about Black love and wealth, and specifically about the Black men and where they stand in relationships in the Black family. So for it to come from the clubhouse to here, and of course after this Zoom or this live, we're going back to clubhouse.
I'm like, oh man,
I don't know. We should have you, bro. I don't know.
It's a lot of heat. It's a lot of heat. It's a lot of heat. I might get that Dave Ramsey. I might get that Dave Ramsey treatment. I feel like I'm silencing you right now. I don't know what to do.
Oh, you will never silence me. I'm a Black woman.
I can't silence you out here. I don't want you to take a couple minutes break. I don't want you to go into deep depression off of this and think about it for a week. All right.
Oh my gosh.
I want to remain positive, folks.
Mm-hmm. Positive energy. We're doing it big.
Positive energy here. We're going to keep it positive, light, everything else. Everybody in Facebook says they can hear us loud and clear.
I wish I brought some the wine up in here, man.
Yeah, you got a little bit of time. Just go get your wine.
Because then I have to cut off the footage, and so you're gonna see my name. That's it. It's gonna be weird.
You gotta drink some water.
Yeah, I do. I do have some water, so I got that at the very least. It's gonna be a bit. Got my water. Let's do it. So who's about to moderate this thing? Is there questions? What's good?
I got questions. At this point, I got plenty of questions.
Did you receive it from the clubhouse?
Which one?
Like the questions, or just something in general you just thought about?
Based off all the conversations that we've just had, I got questions. I got questions.
I'm gonna try to keep it PC. I swear I will try to hold it together.
No, we want it to be raw. Like, audience, come on. Like,
Lawrence, I told you to be nice.
Wow.
I tried.
Wow.
But the thing is, we know you, we understand.
Yeah, I know, but I guess
we know you.
I'm out here on some Dave Ramsey out here, man.
Yo,
melting snowflakes, man. Melting snowflakes
out what other people think, So I think that's the level of not giving an F.
Yeah, man. I guess it's a certain different levels out here. So no, I'm actually interested in this conversation because I think Black love is fundamental to Black wealth. It's not something you can kind of get away from in order for us to build families, build futures, build destinies, and really change the momentum of Blackness in America and across the world. Quite frankly, we got to get through and understand us on a personal level, as at least for me as a Black man and other Black men as well, and for women as well, that everybody understands what's going on in the bigger picture and the bigger play. So that's what I'm here for.
Right, and I think the conversation is at a valuable time right now in the social hemisphere. What's going on? Because we've been having these conversations amongst ourselves, me and you, or with a close friend. Like we have this conversation, but we're not bringing it to the platform. The realness of, in actuality, what's going on in Black families, and also is that the narrative of what we're hearing, what we're seeing. Of consumption, of buying and purchasing. And I remember a conversation that we had a while back, Lawrence, about how, we look for these hashtag Black love and, goals, whereas the man looks good for the photo and for the hearts, but not good enough for the heart itself. So we're not looking into in-depth of what really the values of Black families are. So it's just oversaturated with things that are vague and just naive and just all sorts of things. So I'm just happy that we're actually placing it in one place where we all can discuss it.
And hopefully don't de-evolve. Yeah, don't de-evolve.
Don't what?
Don't de-evolve into kind of anger or something like that.
No, we're not.
Run high because people haven't dealt with themselves when it comes to these conversations. We're talking about, especially, I think I got a couple of calls like, are you trying to devalue the Black man because you're asking questions? Are they failing the household? But when you start looking at the stats, you start looking at what's happening in society, there's a lot to be said and there's a lot to be talked about. And if we don't have honest and open dialogue about what's going on within our own community, how do we expect someone else to come in and fix their home?
Right.
We're not addressing household issues. We're not having conversations that I can't even say we're not even having conversations at dinner because we're not even having dinner together. So, so there's just so much, but then when you challenge the narrative, like earlier we were in this conversation, it got really heated because, hey, a man is actually speaking up. And I always tell like a lot of my women friends, like a lot of times you get afraid to hear a man speak because you haven't heard one spoken. Yeah. You haven't heard one talk to you and understand what a man's voice sounds like. And that's because you grew up sometimes in an absent home. So now you're like, oh my gosh, it's toxic. No, you haven't heard a man's man speak. You've been talking to your sister girlfriends. And we're not having the same conversations as men that are truly masculine, that know what they want and actually are able to lead. I think a lot of women need to be honest with themselves. They want a man that looks like he can lead, but not necessarily lead. And that's a whole different conversation that we need to have. There's a lot of things that people are assuming. That is my 2 cents. I'm coming up early with fire. But
you guys were talk later. You guys were like practicing all of this stuff. Like y'all are practicing.
Yeah, we're gonna talk later. You know, I love your wisdom.
Getting the zingers out here.
Because it's a lot. Because we say we want a lot of things, but when it comes down to actually seeing it into effect, we are like, oh, maybe I don't want that. And it brings me to my first question to kind of stir up the pot here is, Lawrence, what is a six-figure man? Because we've been hearing this conversation about this idea of a six-figure man. He needs to have this, he needs to have that. Can you, as a man, tell us what do you think that a six-figure man is?
All right. Let me slow this down because I think already we're getting to the point where we're crossing a lot of different. There's questions. No, there's ideas. And for guys, if you're listening to this, that's how women are. Like literally, women will ask you 100 questions and then they're like, now answer.
Yeah.
Because they've been thinking about it for a very long time. They already have a rebuttal for whatever you've been answered already. Like he's like, now answer me. So please, let's slow it back down and let's go right back to what Alainta said about like character, the idea of a man having character, about having a real position within himself, having a confidence to actually lead, to talk, and even discuss big issues without becoming very sensitive. I think in this day and age, we're having conversations at each other, but not with each other. So when you see like online, you see like Kevin Samuels has like the big YouTube space now, and he's talking to women about what women should be doing. Not 90% of the time, I've only heard him talk about what women should be doing versus what men should be doing. That's exactly his entire platform, right? But because of that, it becomes like him telling women what to do versus the truth is we can only tell each other what to do better, right? Mm-hmm. So guys need to start telling other guys like, hey, this is what worked for me. This is what, this is how you can build, this is how you can become a better man, yada, yada, yada. And women need to also do the same, not necessarily questioning what is a guy supposed to do? What am I doing, right? What am I, who am I? How can I improve? How can I change? Because when we start talking and almost like giving each other like orders, like you need to do this, whereas like in truth, you have to work on yourself too. So it goes into the idea of like the six-figure man. When a woman says, I need a six-figure man, first it was 6 foot and up. Like if you're a 5 foot guy like I am, 5'9", like it's like, hey, you're a short guy, you're shrimped yourself, you're a
5'9"?
Yeah, 5'9". Yeah, I used to, for my own confidence level or my cool swag back in the day, I used to call it 69 inches. When the women say, how tall are you? I'm 69 inches. Hey, if you're 5'9", it works because it's actually true. It works. And the ladies are like, okay, you're not as tall as I would want you to be, but So just a little pro tip for the guys. So it was this ideal that you have to have already been 6 feet and up, right? And then at some point it started adding like you need to have a college degree and you need to have not just a college degree at that point. You're like, oh, you need to have a graduate school degree. Like you have to be a doctor, lawyer, professional. Then it's going to be like, oh, you need to make 6 figures. Mm-hmm. Women dictate the society we live in, the mating culture per se. So they're dictating these new rules to one up each other, right? To really say, I have a man that has this. And if you don't have a man that has this, then you need to get like this, sis. like do this. And that's the way you evaluate your life. At the end of the day, it's leading people down the wrong path. They're dictating these new rules to That's why I'm gonna end right here for a second.
And just to pick up what you were saying on our Zoom call this morning, when we were discussing about really criticizing each other, but having that personal accountability, because we have our own accountability group and we really try to encourage each other as much as possible, but having that personal accountability and being critical, but in a healthy way to yourself. right? I think as I'm getting older, being a young Black woman, I take inventory on the last 5 years or the last 4 years, and I'm grateful enough to have people in my life and people that encourage me or inspire me to kind of help me get to this point. It took me to do it, but I had that network of people. All that to say is that I'm speaking for the Black. Well, I'm speaking from hearing experiences and seeing what I'm seeing from my point of view is Black men mainly don't have that space. And it's not one answer solution to that, right? When you are in, school, your teachers are most likely are women. Your administrators are women. So every encounter is mainly women. When you're home, you may be raised by a single mother. Who take care of you? Grandma. So there's constantly a woman figure. Not to say the presence of a woman is not as significant as a man, but it's to say that it's difficult to raise a young boy when you are a woman. You need the presence of the man to do so. And it's almost comparing apple to oranges when you come to Black men and Black women, because we had that space, like for myself, we had that space, that network, the places, the positions, see other women doing it. We had the guidance to do so. Whereas Black men, young boys have not. The youngest, when it comes to students, low performing, underperforming students ever in minority groups is a young Black boy. And there's many factors to that. And that kind of leads to so many other issues, not only educationally, but also when it comes to societal issues, legal issues. It's a constant thing amongst growing up. So that's the thing that I'm realizing, speaking more to Black men, but also is that the narrative of how it's being shifted for Black women is that I'm not sympathizing with you no more. If you can't level up with me, you got to go. Whereas, how? Where was that roadmap? I had a roadmap, but you didn't. And we're leaving them behind substantially, not only economically, professionally, experience-wise. I'm seeing more Black women in places I'm not seeing Black men are in these foreign countries. And the lack of experience and things that we're doing, like I'm only seeing in this generation, it may, if there's no solution, and as I've said before, there's no one solution. If we don't figure out what to do in our homes, then it's going to continue. The cycle is just going to get worse and worse and worse. So why is the structure the way it is? And again, it's not one factor. There's multiple of factors, not just Black men, but also Black women as well. Because we can't say we want Black men and treat them like shit because they don't got it or they don't have it. You know what I'm saying? So there's different discussions when it comes to this. So Lovely, what's your thoughts on that?
I think definitely
bring it back to you.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about exactly what you said is that there's a disparity between experiences that's happening and also accomplishment. And the good question will be is, are we only measured by what we experience in terms of like, oh, I traveled and I've done all these things? Or are we, it goes back to that original question to bring it back to the focal point of the stage, is like, do I have to have gone to Dubai and all these other countries to be a person of character, to be a person of willing to do effort? And I think it goes back to that we're having a checklist that's not really measured by true values that are substantive. Because maybe somebody didn't go out and travel, but they do have character. And if it's brought up to the conversation, like, hey, I've traveled to these countries and maybe you haven't, like, oh, why is that? Oh, I never even thought it was possible for me. And now because you're introducing somebody to something instead of doubting them because they haven't had the same experience. So we have to ask ourselves, like, what is our real values? Because I can say these things, these experiences that I have are so much more grandeur than you, but you might have more depth and more character than I do. Although on paper, it looks like I'm a well-rounded person, but I don't know how to speak to people. I don't have, I can't even handle a disagreement. I can't handle having a conversation that's tough. And I might be hearing something that's not easy to hear, but I've been to Dubai, I've been to South Africa, I've done all these different things, but doesn't necessarily mean as a human being, I'm a good person to even mate with. And I think back to the conversation of like, what are we really looking for? Is it Instagrammable, or we're looking for real life interactions and things that are going to help us grow?
Right. So it sounds as though like, can we quantify, or how can it be measured on our value system? That's what it sounds like you're saying. And I won't say it's measurable, but I would say that experiences does matter, exposure matter, right? Like I was mentioning earlier, as a young Black girl, raised by a widow, woman, I've seen constant examples of Black women in a lot of fields. So for me, that was inspiring me to encourage me to push forward. But what do we say to Black little boys who don't see those examples or don't have that exposure? And they're seeing their counterparts pushing forward or moving through with these different experiences. And it's almost like, why should I even try? So again, I don't think it's a one thing or solution, but we have to kind of look in ourselves to see what we want to not only provide to the world and to our own future families, but also how we look at ourselves.
Awesome. Lauren?
I'm just listening and providing a space for women to be free. like it is what it is, but
I can't let it go.
I ain't letting it go. I literally had to listen, and I think you guys are saying a lot of great things. In the end of the day, the idea of being, growing up was difficult for a lot of Black boys. Like, it just was difficult from beginning to end. You said it perfectly well. When I went, I grew up in a household full of women. My mom was a single mom. Went to school. Pretty much majority of my teachers were all women all the time. A lot of my interactions in my formative years was pretty much women. So when it comes to like somebody says, hey, man up, like man up to what? Like what exactly is the image? Like what am I manning up to? One of the things I appreciate is when my aunt was more tomboyish. So she did a lot of repair stuff. So I learned vicariously through her, even though I knew it was a little bit jaded. I was like, you know what? I'm going to learn something from her because it seems like she's closer to the guy demographic and I could actually pick up a few things. Right. Yeah. So you do need that. Like young Black men do need that. It's not just, I didn't have a dad around me, but I don't think it's just the dad too. It's really a lot of constructively around you as you're moving into life, the difficulties of life. You need to see multiple examples of different kind of guys evolving and growing into their own. You don't even see a lot of Black men in the churches anymore. You see like maybe the preacher, that's about it. And then maybe some deacons, you don't even know those guys, but in between, you don't see a lot of like young Black men are not seeing that type of one-on-one peer mentorship anymore. We're seeing
that's the gap. That is the gap. We either see the older, like much older, I'm talking about 20, 30 years plus representation of their presence, and we see the younger adolescents.
Yeah, you don't see the middle. We don't see the middle part. Yeah, we don't see the middle part. We don't see the college kid. We don't see the young professional. We just see very young or very old, and it's like somewhere in between. You don't see the transition. Right. And there used to be something like a rite of passage that happened, especially in society, when men had to be, quote unquote, become men, right? Either it be through hunting, through kind of like a peer-to-peer exercise, through building something. We've taken a lot of that out of society now. Whereas there's not even a lot of spaces, even to the point where women wanted to integrate into the boys, Boy Scouts. You're like, oh, because they have all these resources, we need to get in there. I'm like, can they not have a space anymore? Is there any space where a guy could do anything that's remotely masculine? Remotely masculine.
Lawrence, I think that brings a question that of Facebook.
Yeah, that's the question.
What do you mean by spaces for Black men and boys? Are you talking about youth groups or mentoring? And I think the question is
definitely. Well, we're definitely talking about a lot of it from like if we wanted to solve the issue right at this stage in time. It's not something I can't solve. I guess the lack of men available for 30 plus women, right? 30. If you're 30 age plus and you're trying to find a mate, I can't solve that. We can't solve that right now. What we can solve is going back and really try to make sure that the kids themselves are not falling behind. Exactly what you said. It's like there's a lot of young Black boys just falling behind miserably. they're not going to do any better. And we need to really focus and bring them up to par so they can at least survive upwards to, college and have a job and whatever it is. If they're not getting to that point, they're not going to make it in society. So when we say spaces, we need anything that means, having after school programs, having, groups of men that meet up after church. Maybe you play sports every Saturday or something like that. Maybe you get a group of people and you just go build homes, teaching kids how to build a desk. Anything that's kinetically involved, that's where men learn and thrive. That's why I personally went to the Marine Corps, and I can tell you in the military, it's a little bit more kinetic. And that's what really drive our bonds, because we're doing something that is physically based. We're not just sitting there just watching a teacher. We're literally doing something with our hand, and we're building that certain confidence that we need as men going forward, whatever obstacle we're gonna hit. Because if you're not, that's what guys do. If we don't hit the obstacle and we don't even struggle through it, whatever, and learn from it, the next obstacle get even worse and worse and worse. And that's what life is. It's a constant struggle. And if you're not getting any form of struggle, like if there's nothing going on for you, there's nobody there to guide you through anything, you will not be able to outlast anybody else. I'll leave this with saying, I ran into a kid years ago. I'll never forget him. I'll see him walking on my way to work, and I'm like, him and the little brother or something. I didn't even know the little brother. I thought they were just kind of like friends. I'm like, hey, weren't you guys supposed to be in classes? He's like, nah, I'm not in class right now. I'm like, what do you mean? Oh yeah, it's like a day off. I'm like, what grade you are? I'm in third grade. The other, I'm in third grade too. I'm like, y'all friends? Stuff. I'm like, no, that's my little brother. I'm like, y'all in the same grade? Yeah, I flunked third grade, so I had to take it over. I'm looking at the kid like, I didn't want to show it in my face, as if, especially as a man, you don't show like that level of weird concern, like, oh yeah, no, you look at him like, But I was processing. I'm like, so you failed third grade and you have to take it again? Mm-hmm. I don't think he's gonna make it through whatever left of these grades. He has like 12 to go. Like, that's a whole, and I'm thinking to myself, like, who's watching over you, guiding you through your struggles to make sure that you're gonna get to where you're gonna go? Right. And that's the problem. That is in and of itself the problem. And then you expect that kid who becomes a young man, who becomes a man with no job, who becomes unemployed, just sitting around playing video games, and then you say, hey, you need to man up. He never even had a chance to even grow up.
Yeah. So I think we touch on that thoroughly on spaces for Black men and boys. But like I was saying earlier, I have a lot of spaces. I continue to have spaces as a young adult. As a young adult, I continue to have spaces of people that encourage me, that supports me, that pushes me to be better. So we at this point with the generation, it's like, we don't know, but we can just help out the younger ones, and give them a fighting chance. Not to say that 30 plus or 20 plus year olds don't have a chance. It's to say that we really need to start applying good resources around us that'll be able to help us grow and evolve. The social eco is currently saturated with so much of misinformation, scammy stuff, the high value man, and you don't have a Costco car, like all this stuff, is saturated. And I think it is getting to people to feel lesser than. And when you feel lesser than, you just don't do nothing at all. You're like, well, my life is lit.
Doing what it is. Yeah, you get quiet. You get quiet. You feel intimidated.
Yeah, you feel intimidated. It's just like you don't want to do anything. And I can speak of that because I used to be that person. Like, my life is cool. I'm content. I'm cool. I got a job.
Yeah, because you don't want to feel that way. Nobody wants to feel like they don't. Right. Yeah, you don't want to feel like you don't, have something to contribute, no matter who you are. And that's why the relationships that I have, they vary. They're not just, guys that went to college. I know a lot of guys that didn't go to college. I know a lot of guys that are just still great men that don't have a degree like that. They're still good guys. And it's about us all talking to each other like real people. Because the best conversation I have are not with people that have a degree, is the people that don't have anything at all. Like the janitor I'd be talking to, the person that cleans the street I'd be talking. I don't care, because it's who I am. Because I'm from being poor. I know exactly who those people are. They're real people too. Yeah. They don't have the same exact framework, all the pieces, but sometimes they're smart, they're intelligent people. It's just they weren't given the same parameters to live in. and it's a little tougher for them to express that.
Yeah, and we can't solely just place the blame and accountability on Black men, because as a Black woman too, we can't just look for men for the prerequisite is being successful. What is success? You know, how do you measure, how do you look at success? Because like we were mentioning earlier, it's about the man quality, it's about the character, is is his character is more defined and in the home and presented in the community as a well-formed man, right? So that's the things that we have to do as women, is to sympathize with our men, not to say to accept BS whenever or lesser than that. We're not saying that. It's to say that there's other conversations that are being had, that the narrative is not always a high value man is solely justified on how much he makes.
Yeah, that's the definition. Like, what is high value? Like, my oldest cousin, I still remember him to this day. Like, he's still, like, he's not passed away or nothing. but the idea is that he didn't go to college. He wasn't the first one in our family to go to college in that generation. He just didn't do that. He worked as, I think he was serving at Applebee's or something like that, like some kind of local restaurant, ended up being the manager, ended up being the district or whatever manager of all the different locations. And to this day, he's married to his high school sweetheart of like maybe 30 years. Yeah. That straight up 30 years. He had 3 kids. One kid went to college, got out there super quick, on honors, and she just got proposed to. This is a grade A, 100% high caliber man, like straight up. Like, you don't get that, technically even today with some guys that's making 100,000 could barely even fix anything in their house.
Right.
Like, this is what you mean by high value. Like, high value is like, how can you bring to the game that's going to really radically shift your family in such a way that the next generation is like my little cousin, like second cousin, she went to college. Like, I think she graduated like 3 years honors. Man. Like, it's insane. You don't just build that in a person because she had a mom and dad in the household, but she also had the structure to say, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. And that's what guys bring to the dynamic of a family. It's confidence, the ideal that you can try. When you see women with kids, it's like, whoa, don't do this, don't do that. When you see the guy with the kids, like, go, do it, like, give it a shot. Like, it's almost like we take a little bit more chance, and that little bit more chance might be the edge the kid needs in order for them to grow up into better people. And that's what a lot of guys get from the interaction with other men. The ideal that you could be better. You don't have to just remain and be the victim for the rest of your life. Right. You don't have to be this weak person. You don't have to, soft and quiet yourself in the corner. No, you step up. This is what a man is. Step up. No matter if you're scared, you step up. Right. You find solutions, you find change, you find reasons to be. And that's what women are attracted to, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. And even if you don't have like 100 stacks, if you're that kind of caliber guy, eventually the right woman would actually notice you for who you are.
Right.
Some women are just the ones that's like, I just want a guy making 100 stacks. Trust me, guys, you don't want that type of chick. She got problems. if that's the only thing that she's looking at, then she's not looking at everything that matters in the world. She just, like you said, she wants a certain dollar value, certain outfit that this guy needs to wear, like some kind of puppet, and then also just take photos on Instagram and hashtag goals. That's not a person of character to me.
Gotcha. So the forum, we touch on a lot of different aspects when it comes to Black love. So how do we bring this around into the wealth of it all, and having the Black men who are in the household or who want to have their own household someday? How can we discuss wealth without listening to reply and not actually actively listening to the issues and the concerns of how our dynamic is revolving around money? Because love is one thing, and it looks like a lot of people are chasing more money than they are about the love. So how can we get to the real wealth? Because we just seen as a monetary value, but the wealth is seeing your children or your nieces and nephew become this, adult and successful and thriving adult, and to say that you are a part of that growth and that evolving person, that's wealth to me. So how do we kind of shift that conversation of this, you know, discussing about wealth in Black homes?
That's a hard question to answer, to be honest with you. Just as a one person, I know, you know, once I say something, people like catch hate. They're like, oh, you're stepping up. You're trying to be different. You're trying to be white. Like, I don't care. All I want to say is, you know, as I'm a solution driven person, and when given a problem, when given like a big overarching thing like that, I'd say to that, I think it's interesting to see what we all click and like on social media. And I think that's one thing we can actually change.
Yeah.
We could personally change that on a one-on-one level. We should start like following things that matter, following, being more, I guess, intentional about what we like. Just like a lot of women at one point in social media, when, you know, I guess at the very beginning, at some point in IG, women were like, oh, all these guys are liking this type of girl. So therefore, every girl thought they wanted to be this type of girl.
Yeah.
And now a lot of women are just clicking on other women's stuff. It's kind of weird. But ultimately, though, if you're tasking guys to change and help, you know, women change, then it's the same thing on the other side too. Right. That we just stop, you know, looking at the flashy things, stop looking at the outfits, stop looking at all this stuff that makes a person. But let's like the guy that, you know, was, you know, serving at the food kitchen the next day, that's doing community service, that's actually, you know, he's going back, he's talking to some kids. Let's start clicking on those so we could start uplifting and on an algorithm level, you know, like what matters to us. Mm-hmm. That's when you start to change. If you wanted to change that aspect, right? You know, start saying, you know, it's not about like what country you travel to, but it's what, you know, what did you offer and bring to the world? Mm-hmm. You know, everything that we click on, I swear to you, like we just click on it. And we're just basically giving social validation that this is what we like and this is what is important to us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if we change that, we'd be better off.
And I also say just to piggyback on that, on the, I guess, the Black woman experience on social media, I guess, is me and Lovely, we all talked about this, about the luxury lifestyle and the picture of the luxury lifestyle. And it kind of equates to the Black men. The Black man will give you this pretentious lifestyle, right? And this luxury thing that we say that we deserve. Mm-hmm. And from that, I think psychologically, when you're constantly feeding into it, it's like, oh, he doesn't do this. Oh, you're not doing this. Then it's like you're undeserving of these things, right? And it's almost like the selection of men that we dodge and we go through because of what we're consuming on a psychological level, just subconsciously. Because like we're looking at high value men, even though they may be genuinely great guys. Oh, you don't make up. You don't do this, and it just completely just push them off and brush them off, right? So we have to create a new narrative. So if it does take us following this more positive influencer or this person that's sharing great content, being really genuine of what they're placing on social media, then that's what it takes as well. Because not only we're driven force of consumers, and we want to create this luxury lifestyle, but we're choosing the wrong men and creating these household of division.
Yeah,
division.
We're basically structured. I forget the word it is. It's like we're fabricating a reality, and by that we want, you know, it's like, hey, we have this luxury thing, so therefore it has to equate. The other person has to be or bring luxury to me as well. Right. So I've actually been or been in different relationships where I actually experienced that. When a girl came up to me where I was dating at the time, she's like, well, this other guy wants to buy me this. What are you going to buy me? And I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm dating you. We're in a relationship together. What the hell's going on? And I think at that point, I kind of let her, you know, I cut her off on her. I'm one of those people who's like, if I'm in competition with somebody else for your attention or your affection, then I don't want to be in that competition, because this is not that kind of game. This is not this thing where somebody has to, I guess The Bachelorette is a good example of it. Like, you're supposed to, like the show, you're supposed to win this other person. That's not how love is. Right. It's just like you love a person because you love them for who you are. You're making it, you know, you're making something and you're working something together, but you're not looking at the other person like, let me see if I could level up. Let me see if I could change up. Let me see if I could, like, hey, I don't want to settle with this guy. I want to try to see if I can wake up with this guy and trying to up the ante until you eventually bust. That's the whole thing about like playing blackjack. You just keep hitting until eventually nothing happens, and then you're sitting around and you're like 42 thinking, hey, what happened?
Right.
I thought I was playing the game. I thought I was winning in this game, because you're still trying to search for something that is almost, if you run into a guy that's over 6 feet making 100K and he's a great character, then you do. But that's not everybody. So you can't just completely wipe it. Yeah, you can't just completely wipe the deck and say, you know what, I want none of this.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing for guys. That's why guys don't really just say, well, I want this one girl. Because if you go on social media, guys are clicking on all types of different type of women, different body types, different shades, different whatever, because guys are like, we got to keep this thing open as heck to see what we could grab at this game. Because you don't know who you're going to end up with. Mm-hmm. But I think I've seen a lot more women from the guy's perspective kind of narrow their scope so much that I'm like, you only have to be in this category to survive. And it is a very small group.
Right. Someone posted in the chat, are happy couples more private? I'm not sure who. Yeah.
Yes, I would say I'm recently married, and there's nothing to report. It's so when you're happy, there's nothing to report about what's going on. I'm happy. Yeah. I'd be like looking at her like, are you happy? Because I'm pretty happy right now. Just to make sure that everybody's like, are you good? Because I'm really good. That kind of thing. So there's nothing to me to show to somebody to say I love her more. I don't need to buy I don't need to fill the entire room with nothing but like roses or something. Do a whole I'm about to.
But it's cute though. It is cute.
They're like, I'm a surprise.
I do like it. It's cute though.
But hey,
I disagree. It's really cute though.
No, but there's a thing to be cute, but there's another thing that you're doing it and then premeditating. It's like premeditating a crime. Like they'll say, hey, you actually killed somebody because you premeditated the thing. Like you literally are like, I'm about to put this on social media. I'm gonna get these likes. It's gonna be great. I'm just gonna. Oh, look at her surprise! Click up, and then you pause. Like you literally, like psychologically, when you watch this stuff, people stop, ignore the other person. She probably grab her phone, goes on her own tear, like, "Hey, girl, hey!" And the guy goes on this going like, It's a disassociative society that we're living in now. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make any sense because you're not in it. You're not in the love anymore. You're doing it for other things.
Right.
You're doing it to show the other person. You're doing it to kind of upend, my other friend or something. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I don't want to minimize a woman's voice.
No. Law, you gotta kill it. Because
I have to learn. Learn.
No. So there's a couple of comments coming in through Facebook. I'm monitoring the chat here. That brings up a good point. Is that if we're saying we got to monitor what we're consuming, how do we see happy couples if they're more private? Like, how do we have something to aspire to if there's nothing to watch? Or are we talking about like, hey, why do we have to watch something to make it a reality?
There's one thing it's not modeling. I think that's not what we're trying to say. The first thing you need to do as a person is to work on you. Mm-hmm. Period. No matter if you're not with somebody right now, it's the perfect time. Start fixing yourself, start taking personal accountability, start critiquing like things you can work on, soft skills. Hey, maybe I'm too loud, maybe I'm too soft, maybe I'm too aggressive or whatever it is. Let's start having a dialogue with yourself so you can start tweaking some of these things. Maybe you're unhappy. Even by yourself, you're so unhappy. You need to start figuring out what makes you personally happy. Because I'm not responsible for my wife's happiness. That's one couple at my job, one lady at my job actually said it. She's not responsible for her husband's happiness. And I was like, I took that to heart. You listen to other people and you were like, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, the idea is true. You're supposed to be happy on yourself and they're supposed to be happy too. And then you come together in happiness. That's just the way it is. But if you're unhappy by yourself and you need this other person to almost entertain you to get you out your funk half the time, then you're not dealing with the problem you already innately have. And that's the problem. That's what's going to sink a lot of relationships because some people have real issues that almost have nothing to do with the relationship, but it's self-value, self-interpretation, self-actualization, traumas from their past that they're not dealing with in a healthy way. All of that stuff has almost nothing to do with your relationship. It has everything to do with things you need to fix before you could go on and try to be a better person.
And I think that was one of the main things too, is that we're constantly looking for models. We're constantly looking for models and want to view things and think this perception of hashtag goals or marriage goals or whatever it may be, but we don't know what these individuals are going through. We don't know what the scope of their relationship is. There may be some shitty ass people. Like, we don't know any of these things and these factors, right? But if you are committed to your relationship, but more or less committed to yourself and trying to be a good person, I'm learning more things, as I'm going through my relationship. I'm like, yo, that's kind of toxic. I don't realize I'm doing that sort of stuff, right? But I'm finding the self-reflection to be better, not only for him, but for myself as well. But I'm not looking at others to model them, because they're nothing like us. Our dynamic is nothing like anyone else. And I'm pretty sure anyone else's dynamic is not similar to ours, because our experiences are different. Our cultures are different. So we need to kind of just lean back with the modeling and looking at other people, because at one point it was, Jay-Z and Beyonce, but Beyonce made X amount of money on this album that Jay-Z cheated on her. So we need to stop looking at models and these people and to understand that they're human beings. We're not perfect.
It's the piecemeal. That's what it is. It's not, I know some people, we want to see something so we could kind of figure out to be a better person. Piecemeal it. I guess Eddie Griffin said it as a comedian. He was like, I think one of his jokes was about like the idea of, I guess religion and all its facets, no matter what religion it is like we should care more about the message versus the messenger, right? So there's different photos or different things that people can do. Let's say if the Obamas was out there doing a soup kitchen, you just click on that. You co-sign on the message, not necessarily on just them, not the messenger itself, not just everything that they do. It's not unilateral. I like this person, therefore everything they do is 100%. That's not what you're saying. Just pick and choose things that you really resonate with you as far as character, about what the person is doing, what it's about. I love Marvel actors, like the ones that played it, because they go to the hospitals and talk to the kids and really play up their character. And I'm like, you know what? I love that. I don't know what they do in their personal life. I'm not going to say that, they're the perfect individual. I don't know. But I do know that that's something I found valuable, is that they take a little bit of what they do and they go to somewhere and they just illuminate a child's life. Right? That's amazing. You don't get that any other place, right? So that I'm not co-signing on who they are on an individual level. I have no idea who they are, but I am co-signing on the act that we can all do something to illuminate other people.
I definitely think I hear you guys saying pretty much like we have these idols and they need to come down of like one person, and where it's more so like, oh, this is a good principle. Let me just take this part out. I don't necessarily care for the whole pie, but this piece right here is really important to what I need to do. And I think it's important across the board for us to start looking at individual lifestyles, because I think what happens, I think the question comes up again. So what we like on social media doesn't really matter. I don't think it's like it doesn't really matter. I just think that we also are complaining about a situation in our society, then we're perpetuating a different behavior than what we're saying that we want. We say we want healthy, then we are following some toxic behavior stuff. And it's more so like, no, let's look in the mirror. Instead of trying to project, instead of trying to piece together hashtag my relationship goals based on these people, let's really look at what true happiness and wholeness and wealth looks like for myself. So that I can actually grow out of these situations and not blame society or not blame the next person for why I'm not happy. Or even in this case, in my relationship, like maybe I'm not happy with myself. So no matter what you do, you could be the 6 foot run athlete, you do every single thing, and I'll find something wrong with you because I haven't learned not to judge myself to the point that I'm also now always judging other people. And I want to kind of bring this question into play because now it brings into like the whole education thing and the S word. I knew that this S word was going to come up. What's the S word?
What's the S word? What?
Woo! Okay, women are compellingly getting degrees, outpacing the men statistically. Are women able to be submissive in a relationship and let the man lead? Yeah, I knew the S word was going to come up.
Submissive. Be submissive. Did a woman write that? that, or did a guy write that? That's a question.
No, a woman did. It was a woman.
That's
Of course.
interesting. Interesting. A lot of these times too, like I'm gonna hitch it on that one, because a lot of times when you see these comments and understanding, I'm like, oh, so the women are writing this, because the guys are not really, at least the guys that I know of in my lifetime, we never sat around together like, man, the first thing I need is a woman to be submissive.
I don't hear that much. I don't. Women are the only ones saying it. Men
I'm telling you, throughout my life, 30 plus years of running into guys, we don't sit there in the powwow like, man, if only she was a little bit more submissive. That's not what we do. Or drinking cognac. I don't know what they imagine us guys to be doing, but we're not doing this. Majority of times when a guy likes a girl, it's no matter if you're white, black, Asian, Hispanic, you run into your homeboy, one of your closest homeboys, you say, man, I met this girl. And that is it pause, dot, you're looking at them like, what? Huh? I met this. I'm like, all right, okay, I'm listening. She's cool. She's dope. She's awesome. She's, no matter what adjective he uses, it has to do with the way she made him feel.
Right.
That's it. It wasn't, I don't know what she looks like yet, right? So he doesn't care. He's like, man, she's awesome. She's amazing. She's this and that, because he's coming off the energy of just meeting somebody that he feel that he connected with, or she connected with him, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And no matter if you, whatever color, whatever social class, economic class, is always the same. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen it to be different anywhere, like for guys. And then eventually you're like, oh, so how she look like? Because you can't really know. It's like, we don't even remember what she was wearing, technically. You'd be like, hey, I guess she was wearing some shorts. Guys barely remember all those details. We just remember how she
We're the details.
Yeah, like we remember how she made you feel. Like, what was she wearing on her feet? Nobody cares. Like, we ain't asking that question. Like, the next question is like, yo, you gonna see her again? You got her number? That's it. As a homeboy, that's what you do. Because you're as excited as he is, because he seemed to have found somebody that he likes. Mm-hmm. So there is no question about, is she submissive, how much she makes, where is she? Nah, it's very quick, it's very brief. It's just, how do you make you feel? So when somebody says something like submissive, I think part of it has to do with character and profiles nowadays. That's a little bit tough, because there's some ladies that are coming into the game like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. Like, guys looking around like, what are you doing throughout this time? Like, so you're just getting dressed and I'm just doing me. I'm like, okay, that's an attitude problem. That has nothing to do with anything. In my household, I believe in compromise. That means we're doing things together. If she's going to cook or something, I'm like, let me do the dishes. That's compromise. Introducing that in the house. I want to do the dishes. I understand you want to do it, but if you ever don't want to do it, it's okay to hit me up and say, hey, Lawrence, do the dishes. Mm-hmm. Or I throw out the trash, or whatever it is. We need to come together as a Black unit, or as a household, as a relationship, even if it's whoever else you're with, that is beyond just this idea of submissive, because we all serve each other.
Right.
A family serves each other. The guy, he goes to work, brings some money, or he goes fix the car. He's serving his wife. Mm-hmm. He's serving his family. If a woman started cooking, whatever, she's serving her family, not just her own personal needs. That's the ideal of family. It has nothing to do with just you. It has nothing to do with just like your aggrandizement or your way that you feel like a queen, like, or whatever it is. That's stupid. The ideal of a good relationship is of compromise, is of looking at each other and realizing that both of us have different things to add.
She did mention, I'm reading here on the chat, that women are competitively getting degrees, outpacing men statistically. Mm-hmm. So she also mentioned about women able to be submissive in a relationship. I don't think it's one over the other in terms of because I have a degree, I should be more submissive or lesser submissive to my husband or whomever I'm with. I think that that's more on the financial standpoint too, because that does play as a factor mm-hmm. if you want to have children or not. And that's I'm happy she placed that in that comment, because I want to ask is, and we touched on it earlier in the conversation about the men, black little boys and stuff are not improving faster rates than Black women, especially when it comes to younger. But what is what can we do now when you're a plus 30 or something like that? You can't find a man that are making money, as much money as you.
You always go to Africa or something like that. There's always a guy ready to go, ready to go. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm like, the Africans are like, man, they're like, yo, you don't put us like this. And there's a lot of y'all ready to wife them up real quick. Just go to Ghana, the year of return, and you come back with something. I hope so. Or something. Yeah, or something. There's a lot of spaces where there's a lot of different guys that exist. Because I guess the point is not to get everyone. That's not the point. When you talk about dating, it's about finding just one. So if there's a lot of others, I get it. There's not the percentages are not exactly, I guess 1-to-1. That doesn't matter to you. If you're in this game, you're supposed to find one person. That's all you need to do. Find one person. Yeah. So I think part of the dating thing is like, oh, but what about the stats? I said this. I don't give a crap about the stats. I don't give two shits about them. You need to find one person. That's the goal. So if you need to go elsewhere to go find that one person that's not in your area, then do it. If you need to move, then do it. Because if your goal is to find a one person, then go find a one person.
I agree. I totally agree. Someone posted, so I was able to read it. What did it say, Lovely?
I read it.
Yeah, she provided some context, right?
Yeah, the Caribbean standards. So I think it is true. There's a lot of things that are expected of women, especially at different generation points. Now, I don't think it's going to be the same going forward, but as far as, I guess the women that are 30 or whatever, a little bit under, they felt the pressure in which, hey, you've had to cook, clean, and all types of stuff like that. 9 times out of 10, if you don't like it, and part of my friends, fuck the guy. Like, move on, go to another guy, because it's not all guys are the same. There's some guys that know how to cook, clean, or whatever. Then go grab yourself that guy. But if that guy is looking at you, it's like, oh, the first statement of him is like, you need to be submissive. One, if that's the kind of guys you're pulling, you need to start checking yourself. Sorry to be like, hey, that's the first thing. But that one that said, oh, hey, you my queen. The moment he says that, radar up. Say,
there's a balance.
Hey, there's a balance. But that's why I said radar up. Yeah. That he might gonna hit you with the, hey, you need to be submissive, my queen. I'm like, that makes no sense.
But I don't understand how they say, because I'm raised by a Caribbean woman. So I don't understand why they would say because we're now more Caribbean minded and more ambitious. The essentials are not taken care of at home. Like, baby, I take care of my home.
Yeah. You still gotta clean.
Stop. I still gotta clean.
But you still gotta clean after yourself. Like,
I don't understand. I don't understand the correlation in between that. You still gotta take care of your home with or without anyone. That's just
while working from home. A lot of people
while working from home. You get that luxury. I don't.
Hey, no, I'm just saying. A lot of people are working from home. They're like, hey, you working from home now. You need to clean that shit.
I don't understand that correlation, but I get about the submissiveness.
It is difficult in this
like a blend. Do a blend. If you feel like, let's say you're in a household, my thing is get the task done. How you choose to see fit. If you want to hire help, you want to add additional steps to get it done. You want to say, hey, you know what? I realize that we have 2 kids now. I can't take on the whole load. We're going to add a housekeeper that comes in once a month. It doesn't have to be once a week, but like, let's budget in. That might just mean that we're not eating out the extra 2 days that we are to go ahead and do that. And it brings me back to this thing of communication. I think there's a lot of things that women and men are saying, well, this is expected of me. But did you have the conversations? Are you having the conversations to say, hey, I need help? Or do you feel like I do have to be superwoman because I saw this being done in my household? My mom did everything and she did all these things. Times have changed and you can adapt to it. When you go, like, for us, we're Caribbean, if you go to Haiti, nobody was running their house by themselves. So I don't even know where the idea came from that our grandparents were doing it by themselves. It's like, no, they were not.
And then there's that idea too that there were, like, the guy was at work and the woman was not at work, so therefore there was a little bit more option and timing. And you're 100% right. You need to communicate with whoever that you're going to dictate to being your spouse. Whoever that you choose, when they get a bended knee, you don't have to say yes if he's a trash dude. If he's like decent, that's when you say yes. Like then you work with him and start formulating plans and ideas of how can you make his, how can you make this household work? Do you meal prep on the Sunday? Maybe you eat out, 2 days out the week? Maybe you, like you said, you get the meal plan that goes, that get delivered at the house or something like that. Maybe you do whatever you need to do, because that's exactly what our parents has done in the past. They were resourceful.
Right.
They didn't sit there and be like, things ain't working out. They were resourceful.
Yeah.
That means they did what they had to do. They figured it out. Woman or man, this day and age, we need to stop being like, be resourceful. Solve your problem. And if you're spending way too much damn money, then it's also your problem. Solve it. Take the pieces you have, solve it. If you have to pay your mom to come back in, or maybe have an in-law suite and then your mom just kind of cooking all the time, hey, that's a solve. Yeah. Solve your problems.
I agree. And also, it's just be mindful on the spouse that you're choosing as well, because you may have this perception idea of how you want to run your household. You both have to be on the same board as well, and to compromise. So it's at this day and age, it's not a one woman ship, one man ship. You got to do this together, together, as much as you can, together. Because I don't care, you're a stay-at-home dad, whatever. Someone's gonna cook.
and I think part of it too is because our taste has changed so dramatically. I remember growing up, what we used to have like rice and beans all the time. It was like 90% of the time it was rice, and it's gonna be rice at the crib because we're making bulk meals. They weren't out here catering to everybody's whims, like 5 kids. Everybody's like, you want waffles, you want potatoes, you want hash brown. No, we just had one vat. You ate the vat and you kept it
all day.
And that's how they did it. They're just like, hey, there's a plateau, or like a big old mammoth of just like rice, like got cold, got clumpy. You clump yourself out there, you make some food and you keep it going, because they got smart about how you do it. They knew meal prepping before it was a thing, because they used their thoughts. That's all they did. They're like, you know what, I'm gonna make this work. And if you start thinking about that as a parent, instead of trying to cater to your kids and to like every meal type, just you look at them straight up, like your mom used to look at them like, yo, we're getting macaroni today, or you're getting rice today, and you're gonna get rice tomorrow. He's like, hey, you're gonna get rice tomorrow, and the day after that, like, you'll come to me, you're gonna ask me more questions, you get my moulin, and nobody wants that. Like,
there's no options that when I was growing up. That's what you ate. If you don't want to eat, you gotta have to. She's like, well, back on go. You're not hungry. She's like, I did my part. I can't want you to eat.
You ain't gonna drive me to an early death. Like, you're gonna
after the 6th child, she's like, you know what? You're gonna eat. You're not gonna eat.
I got 5 others. I'm 5 and 6. I'm 5 and 6. 4 and 6 is still good. That's still a good ratio.
Yeah, so find a good partner that will really, be in the household to help you, because both of you are helpers as well. I don't think I could be with someone who's so just think I need to be submissive to him, because that's not my value system. I feel like we should be submissive to each other, because just as something happened to me, you'll help me. Something happened to you, I help you, because your partner is not only there for your own well-being, but honestly, you're really responsible for this other life when you think about it, right? Because you want your spouse to be healthy. You want them to be mentally healthy. You want them to thrive at their best, potential, the best self. So all those take work, not only themselves but yourself as well, because it goes vice versa. So. There's that
weird religious misinterpretation too about what's
mission is
to be, subservient to somebody else. Like, the woman is subservient to the guy, but the guy is subservient to his family. So in the end of the day, it's the same thing. It's just that I guess the guy is seen as the person in charge per se, but she's submissive to him, but he's submissive to the entire family. He makes sure that everybody's safe. He makes sure that everybody's fed. He makes sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. That's the goal. And that's what we mean by talking about Black love in the realm of character. The ideal, you have the guy understands the grand scheme of the home. Where are we going in the next 5, 10, 20 years? How does that look like? What are we doing? Are we eating right? Do I need to make more money? Do we need to make more money in order for us to bring in a little bit more nutrition in the household? What do we need to do? And this is what we're not getting a lot of in the Black community. Like, guys need to talk to guys about being better men. and women need to talk to other women
about
about being more resourceful.
Other guys about being better men when they're surrounded with not the greatest guys. That
is true. No, but those guys themselves barely talk about being better anything. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. They're not so like Lil Wayne. Yeah, Lil Wayne never talked about being a better man. He never said that. He never said a word about that because he just never said that. Mm-hmm. So we need to start, like you said, piecemealing. And there's nothing we talked about. Piecemeal those sections from other people that seem to be more successful at this job. Like, I'm not going to say that Obama is my goal in life. He's not. He's just another guy. But knowing that he held, he had a career, he got his wife, he got his kids, he's happily married, or he's pretty much putting it together. I'm like, that's admirable for me. That's something I appreciate and I'm going to look after. Like little LeBron, like not because of his basketball talent, because, hey, he has a career. He made sure his wife is good, his kids are good, and then his next generation is good, his community is good. That's the kind of stuff you piecemeal from people after people after people. Mm-hmm. So you're not necessarily just saying, well, I just want to be like that person. You have no idea who that person is.
Right. Agree.
Ooh, there was so much good gems.
Try to drop these in these streets, man. Guys, do not silence a woman's voice.
Law's not giving it up today.
He's not going to give it up. He's not going to drop it.
Never going to drop that, man. I learned.
When are we getting a break from this, Law? Do we have a week? Do we give you a week? Because we know next week, Thursday night and Wednesday night, we're going to be doing a chat about like money management and financial success. Are we going to get this throughout the next week's talks too?
I say keep the same energy. If you want to get canceled, keep the same energy.
I've always been canceled. I don't think I barely get in. They're like, cancel his ass again. The membership.
Keep the same energy. Be consistent.
They're like, yo, did we revoke him before now? Why are you back here again?
You just got there. You got kicked out.
Like, yo, it's just like the temporary readmission. They're like, hey, we're gonna temporarily readmit you off of good behavior. He walks in, never mind, my friend. You don't need to hear from you.
They're going to label you on Clubhouse as a troll.
As a troll.
I don't know. We might just cancel this recap because Clubhouse is fire. Law just out here needing to get canceled. I think we're going to just do this in doses. But you guys, how do you guys feel about the talk? Like, how do you feel as the people that
we touched on so many things?
Yeah. How does everybody feel? Hit us up in the chat. Let us know if this was something that you guys loved and would you guys like to see an encore of it. We have so many conversations that we're going to be bringing to this group itself. And as well as for those who are watching, invite other people. The reason why we didn't do a Facebook page, we actually want to create a community. Our goals, we're the group behind the Wealth Multipliers. And so literally about helping other people become everyday millionaires. And not to get rich scheme. There's no Forex, there's no MLM, nothing crazy, but actually factual information to build wealth for the long term. And if you didn't know, wealth is not only about your net worth, it is so much more. And so we want you to help multiply your happiness, your lifestyle, but we want to do this in a way that brings legacy, right? So that's why we have a community. That's why we're doing this in a CLO, because we want to have actual intimate conversations. So everyone's saying like, we're real deep conversations. People don't like the truth. That is very true. So I'm happy that you guys got a chance to tune in. There is more coming next week. We are actually going to be starting the 10X Your Wealth Challenge, and it's going to be bananas. We hope that it motivates you to actually take challenge to look at your money stories, see what's going on in your life behind the scenes instead of swiping. We want to actually create wealth plans, and we're going to be having some workshops that are coming out too. So I know that a lot of you guys have been waiting, asking Lawrence when the workshops come in. It was me, not Lauren. So just throw the blame on Lovely, okay? It's not, it is all me, but it is because we want to make sure you have a great experience, and we're going to actually have membership with the community. So there's so much coming to the group, but thank you guys first and foremost for tuning in. Share it. If people want to get the live to rewatch it, they have to actually join the group. So just go ahead and make sure you tag them in the group as much as you can. I'll let your beautiful host Alainta and Mr. Lawrence, that may or may not be canceled on
next week
today.
Next week.
You guys give your final thoughts, and then we're gonna close off and say goodbye.
I just want to say thank you all for participating, joining, engaging. I love I was trying to speak back and forth and look at the comments, but I love the comments. I love the questions. So Black love and wealth is not just one solution that we can just magically put our wand and, poof, we have this perfect idea of this household. I want people to understand that it starts with ourselves. It starts with building and creating these spaces that we didn't see growing up. I want to see more spaces for my nephews, and I would like to see even more spaces when they're older, not only when they're younger, but we have to be that example, because sometimes you're just tired looking on the sidelines. You have to look at yourself to see that, you know what, if I'm not invited here, I would create my own space. And that's kind of those examples that we want, because as I mentioned earlier, the social ecosphere is so oversaturated with misinformation and constant capitalism of just buying luxury and having this lifestyle, and it's being misinterpreted on the real value that you should have as a Black man or as a Black woman or as being just the best person that you can be. So we touched on a lot of things. I'm really happy again that everyone was engaging, but these are sort of conversations, not only to have here, but have this conversation with your sister, have a conversation with your loved ones, your spouse, bring it up, see what they think about how the infrastructure of Black homes and relatable to love and wealth and the stories that you can hear, because you may learn something. So this is only on our experiences, on our level. And it's honestly, it's a surface level because it goes even deeper. So I really hope you guys found some value in it. Thanks again for joining. And I can't wait to put out more, conversation discussions. I love it. My favorite people. So yeah, except for Lawrence, because he always getting kicked out on Clubhouse, but we gotta.
My first time.
First time. We're gonna do a quick wrap up on Clubhouse. So if you guys do have Clubhouse, join in. I put the link right here in the comments, and hopefully Lawrence allows us to stay on. If not, we'll
close them out and go like, hey, I don't know how that thing works. So I would say that love is a verb, not just a hashtag. So live in it, be of it, but it's not just about being Black love. I think that's also limiting, but the idea of being in love and also being in love with yourself and learning from yourself and actually moving forward. So we talked about it. I think, wealth is not just, money. It's also your health. It's also your personality. It's also your mental capacity. It's also the people you meet. It's also the things that you do. And that itself is the wealth of time that we have with each other. And if you're not in love with that, I'm not quite sure what you're living for. So ultimately, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking your time to listen to this. And hopefully you got something out of it, because that's really all I care about. Like, if I could have been playing video games all this time, kind of more fun. But if you got something out of it, share it with a friend and share the conversation and start really curating a different life that you want to really live and want to see. Because I could tell you, and I know Alainta, you could tell them too, like, yo, once you start understanding money management, you know, it's this life is good. Life is always good. They say, what's the problem? What problems? What are you doing? Because once you start understanding how to really manage yourself throughout this life, you realize that it's not as difficult as we made it out to be. It could be easier. It could be better. It could be more fun. It could be more happy. It could be more loving. But we have to change. That's all I got.
Drop the mic.
I was trying to follow, Alainta out here with some like deep profoundness, bringing up her crew.
You think that was deep? I'm just
yeah, it was. It's some good stuff. I'm like, people out here practicing.
Showing up, talking about showing love, talk to your friends. All right, guys, we will leave you guys to it. Again, we're going to do a quick wrap up on Clubhouse. I just launched the room. So if you do have Clubhouse, go ahead. I have actually a couple of invites. So if you don't have Clubhouse and you have an iPhone, just hit me up and I'll actually be able to add you on, as long as you're not too crazy, because I'm going to look at your profile first. But anyways, okay, guys, thank you. We'll talk soon.
Peace. Thank you.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Griot podcast, powered by the Wealth Builders Collective.